welcome back to whispers in the dark. Lower the lights, put on your headphones, and keep your door cracked open only if you are certain there is nothing waiting on the other side. This story is a nightmare inspired by the grief-soaked dread, fractured memory, and haunted family horror of a tale of two sisters. Now let's begin. The first thing Mina noticed when the car turned off the main road was that the forest had grown closer to the house. She remembered pines standing at a respectful distance when she was younger, tall and dark beyond the stone wall, swaying in the sea wind. Now the trees leaned inward, their branches crowding over the narrow lane like bent fingers. Their needles scraped across the roof of the car with a whispering sound that made her younger sister, Una, flinch in the back seat. Their father did not slow down. Dr. Han kept both hands on the wheel, his face pale in the reflection of the windshield. He had aged in the months since Mina last saw him. His black hair had turned gray at the temples, and the skin beneath his eyes sagged as though sleep had become something he only remembered from childhood. His jaw was clenched, and the tendons in his neck moved every time he swallowed. Mina sat beside him and watched the road narrow. Una sat behind her, clutching a cloth rabbit with one missing button eye. She was 16, but she still held that old toy whenever she was afraid. Mina had found it in Una's suitcase that morning, packed between folded cardigans and a bottle of pills with a hospital label. She had said nothing. They had both agreed without speaking that some things from the clinic would not be mentioned once they reached home. Home. The word tasted wrong. It had been 7 months since their mother died. 7 months since the funeral where their father stood dry-eyed beside the grave, and Una screamed until 2 orderlies from the hospital had to help Mina carry her to the car. 7 months since the incident everyone referred to in soft voices, as though nomming it would invite it back. The house appeared through the trees, just as the sky began to bruise purple. It stood at the edge of a black lake, a large old country house with steep tiled roofs, deep verandas, and long windows that reflected the dying light like blind eyes. Ivy crawled over one side of the walls. The garden had been trimmed, but too carefully, too neatly, every hedge squared, every flower bed arranged with rigid perfection. The house looked cleaned, polished, preserved, like a corpse dressed beautifully for mourning. On the front steps stood Hyojin. Mina saw her before Una did. Their new stepmother wore a pale blue dress despite the cold evening, her hair pinned behind her head. Her lips painted a soft pink that looked almost childish against her sharp face. She held herself very still, hands folded at her waist, smiling as the car stopped. Mina had only met her twice before the hospital. Once, when Hyojin had been their mother's private nurse. Once, when she had arrived at the funeral wearing black gloves and standing too close to their father. Now she lived in their mother's house. Now she stood on their mother's steps. Una leaned forward between the seats. Her breath touched Mina's ear. "She is wearing mother's necklace," Una whispered. Mina looked again. At Hyojin's throat hung a silver pendant shaped like a small plum blossom. Their mother had worn it every day, even during the last weeks when illness had hollowed her cheeks and loosened her hair. Mina remembered the pendant resting against the bones of her mother's chest as she bent over Yuna's bed at night, singing old songs in a voice thin as smoke. Mina opened the car door before her father could speak. The air outside smelled of lake water, pine resin, and something bitter underneath, like old medicine poured into soil. Her shoes crunched over gravel. Yuna stepped out behind her, and the rabbit dangled from her hand. Hyojin came down the steps, with her smile widening. "My girls," she said. Yuna stiffened. Mina hated the words immediately. Hyojin stopped in front of them and looked from one sister to the other. She did not embrace them. Instead, she raised one hand and gently touched Mina's hair, smoothing a strand back from her face as though Mina were a doll on display. "You look thin," Hyojin said. "The clinic did not feed you well." Mina pulled away. Yuna stared at the pendant. Their father opened the trunk and began unloading the suitcases without looking at anyone. Inside, the house was colder than outside. It had always been a quiet house, but now it seemed to swallow sound. Their footsteps disappeared into the dark wood floors. The hallway smelled of wax, dried flowers, and the faint coppery scent of old blood, though Mina told herself that was impossible. The furniture had been polished until every surface shone. Their mother's paintings still lined the walls, pale landscapes of the lake in winter, the orchard in spring, the forest under moonlight. But between them, Hyojin had hung mirrors. Too many mirrors. A tall oval mirror beside the stairs. A narrow mirror at the end of the hall. Small round mirrors arranged like bubbles above the sideboard. Every room seemed to hold another reflection, another angle of the house watching itself. Yuna stopped at the base of the stairs. The old grandfather clock ticked beside her. Its pendulum swung behind cloudy glass. Tick, tick, tick. Yuna turned her head slowly toward the dining room. "What is it?" Mina asked. Yuna did not answer. Her eyes were fixed on the dark doorway. Mina followed her gaze and saw nothing except the long dining table, laid for dinner with white plates, silver chopsticks, and folded napkins shaped like lilies. At the far end of the table, their mother's chair sat empty. Then something moved beneath it. Not a person, not even an animal, just a pale shape sliding backward into shadow. Yuna gasped and grabbed Mina's hand hard enough to hurt. Hyojin appeared behind them so suddenly that Mina almost screamed. "Dinner is ready," she said brightly. "You must be starving." They ate under the eyes of the mirrors. Hyojin had prepared seaweed soup, braised ribs, steamed rice, and pickled radish sliced into perfect translucent moons. Mina ate only to avoid speaking. Yuna did not touch her food. Their father sat at the head of the table with a glass of water before him, watching his bowl as if it contained some complicated diagnosis. Hyejin talked enough for all of them. She spoke about the garden, about the weather, about how difficult it had been to find good help since the housekeeper left. She mentioned curtains she planned to replace, rugs she had sent away to be cleaned, recipes she had improved because their mother used too much salt. At that, Yuna looked up. Hyejin smiled at her. "Your mother was a gentle woman," she said, "but not everything she did was perfect." The spoon slipped from Yuna's hand and struck the bowl with a sharp crack. Their father closed his eyes. Mina felt heat rise in her face. "Do not talk about her," she said. The room became still. Hyejin's smile did not vanish. It changed. Something tightened behind it. "I am only trying to make this house comfortable again," she said. "It was comfortable before you." "Mina," her father said quietly. It was the first word he had spoken since the car. Mina looked at him, waiting for more, for him to defend their mother, to defend them, to acknowledge the woman at the table was wearing his dead wife's necklace. But he only said, "Eat." Yuna pushed her chair back. The legs scraped loudly against the floor. "I want to go to my room." Hyejin folded her hands. "Your old room is ready. I aired the sheets myself." Yuna shook her head. "I want Mina's room." Mina looked at her sister. "You can sleep with me." "No," Hyejin said. Everyone looked at her. Her voice had been flat, not loud, not angry, flat, like a lid closing over a box. Then her expression softened again. "I mean, the doctor said routines are important. Separate rooms, quiet sleep, no unnecessary excitement." She turned to their father. "Is that not what the doctor said?" Dr. Han rubbed his face with one hand. "Yes." Yuna's eyes filled with tears. Mina stood. "She is sleeping in my room." Hyejin's mouth twitched. For a moment, Mina thought the woman would slap her. She almost wanted her to. Instead, Hyejin stood and walked around the table. She stopped behind Yuna's chair and placed both hands on Yuna's shoulders. Yuna froze. Hyejin leaned down until her lips almost touched Yuna's ear. "Little birds that crowd one nest," she whispered, "sometimes smother each other." Yuna began to shake. Mina pulled her away. Their father did nothing. That night, the sisters lay together in Mina's old room under a faded quilt. Their mother had sewn from scraps of floral fabric. The room looked almost unchanged. The same low bed, the same bookshelf filled with childhood stories, the same vanity with a round mirror and a chipped porcelain tray for hairpins. The same wallpaper, pale cream with tiny red flowers, though in the dark the flowers looked less like blossoms and more like little wounds. Yuna lay curled against Mina. The cloth rabbit clutched beneath her chin. "She hates me," Yuna whispered. "She hates both of us." "Know me more." Mina stared at the ceiling. Above them, the attic floor creaked. Once, then again. A slow, dragging sound followed, as if something heavy was being pulled across old boards. Mina held her breath. Una whispered, "Do you hear it? Old house." It is not the house. The dragging stopped directly above them. Dust drifted from the ceiling. Mina imagined their mother in the attic, pale nightgown trailing behind her, black hair covering her face. She hated herself for imagining it. Their mother had been gentle, even when pain made her moan into her pillow. Their mother had smelled of soap and lavender oil. Their mother had kissed their foreheads, held their hands, whispered that sisters must protect each other because the world always found ways to separate women. The sound above them changed. A soft thump, then another, not dragging now. Footsteps, bare feet moving in a circle. Una pressed her face into Mina's shoulder. "Mina, I know." The footsteps stopped. 3 faint knocks sounded from inside the wall beside the bed. Mina sat up. Una sobbed once and slapped a hand over her mouth. The wallpaper bulged near the floor. A small swelling, no bigger than a fist, pushed outward between the red flowers. The paper stretched and wrinkled. Beneath it, something pressed from inside the wall, slowly, insistently, like a mouth trying to form words through skin. Mina reached for the lamp. The moment light filled the room, the bulge vanished. The wall was flat. Una was crying silently. At breakfast, Hyojin served pears cut into thin white slices. The juice glistened on them like saliva. "You both look tired," she said. Una stared at her plate. Mina watched Hyojin pour tea. On the underside of Hyojin's wrist, partly hidden by her sleeve, were 4 long scratches, red and swollen. Hyojin noticed Mina looking and pulled the sleeve down. "Cat in the garden," she said. "We do not have a cat." Then perhaps something else. Hyojin lifted her cup and drank. Their father was not at the table. Hyojin said he had gone to the hospital early. Mina knew he had left to avoid them. After breakfast, Una refused to go upstairs alone, so the sisters wandered through the garden. The lake lay still behind the house, black and glassy, with reeds trembling along its edge. Their mother had loved that lake. She used to sit on the dock wrapped in a shawl, painting the water in every season. In winter, gray and silver. In spring, green with reflected leaves. In autumn, red as if the sunset had bled into it. Mina stopped near the old plum tree. There were no blossoms, only bare branches, twisted and dark. A strip of fabric fluttered from one branch. Una saw it too. The fabric was pale blue, the same color as Hyojin's dress. It had been tied into a knot around the branch, and beneath it hung something small and wet. Mina stepped closer. It was a bird, a sparrow perhaps. Its tiny body had been opened from throat to belly. Its feathers were slick with blood. Its organs hung in a delicate red string, swaying in the breeze. Its head had been turned completely backward, black bead eyes staring up at the house. Una made a strangled sound. Mina grabbed her arm. "Do not look." But Una was already looking beyond the tree. On the ground, arranged in a careful circle, lay 6 more birds. Each had been opened the same way. Each had its head turned backward. In the center of the circle was a silver hairpin, their mother's hairpin. Mina knew it instantly. A crane with a pearl eye. Their mother had worn it on the day of Mina's school recital, and again at Yuna's 12th birthday dinner. Mina remembered taking it from her mother's hair after the funeral, meaning to keep it, then discovering later that it was gone. Now it lay among dead birds. Yuna whispered, "She did this." Mina looked toward the house. Hyejin stood at an upstairs window. She was watching them when Mina shouted and pointed to the birds. Hyejin only tilted her head, as if curious, then stepped back into the darkness of the room. By noon, the birds were gone. Mina had dragged Yuna inside and demanded that Hyejin explain. Hyejin followed them outside with garden gloves and a wicker basket. But by the time they reached the plum tree, the grass was clean. No birds, no blood, no hairpin. Only a few brown leaves and damp soil. Yuna screamed at her. "You moved them." Hyejin slapped her. The sound cracked across the garden. Mina lunged, but their father caught her from behind. He had returned without either sister hearing the car. "Enough," he said, "enough." Yuna stood with one hand pressed to her cheek, eyes wide, not crying, which was somehow worse. Hyejin looked shocked by her own violence. She touched her mouth. "I am sorry," she said. "I am so sorry. She frightened me." Mina twisted in her father's grip. "She hit her." Dr. Han released Mina and looked at Yuna's cheek. His face collapsed for one brief moment into something like grief. Then Hyejin began to cry, quietly at first, then with increasing force. She covered her face. She said she was trying. She said the girls hated her. She said she had given up her life to care for this family. She said she had sat beside their mother through fevers, vomit, seizures, and nights when the dying woman begged for morphine and cursed her daughters by name. "That is a lie," Mina said. Hyejin lowered her hands. Her eyes were dry. "She asked for you at the end," Hyejin said softly. "Both of you. But neither of you came quickly enough." Their father whispered, "Stop." But she did not stop. She died calling your names. Yuna fainted. That afternoon, Mina sat beside Yuna's bed with a wet cloth pressed to her sister's forehead. Yuna slept fitfully, lips moving, fingers twitching around the rabbit. A red handprint bloomed on her cheek. The house seemed to lean around them. Every pipe groaned. Every timber clicked. The curtains breathed in the draft, though the windows were shut. Mina watched the wall near the bed. No bulge came. At dusk, Yuna opened her eyes. "She was in the room," she whispered. "Who? Mother?" Mina swallowed. "You were dreaming." Yuna shook her head. She was standing by the wardrobe. Her feet were wrong. "What do you mean?" Yuna stared at the closed wardrobe doors. They were broken, turned inward, like someone folded them. Mina followed her gaze. A thin line of darkness separated the wardrobe doors. She was certain she had closed them fully after unpacking. Now they were open just enough to show blackness inside. Mina stood and crossed the room. The floor was cold beneath her socks. She placed her hand on the wardrobe handle. Behind her, Una said, "Do not." Mina opened the doors. Inside hung dresses that had not belonged to her. Pale dresses. Blue, cream, yellow, pink. Hyachin's clothes. The scent of her perfume spilled out, powdery and sweet enough to make Mina gag. Something dripped onto the floor. Mina looked down. A thick red drop struck the wood beside her foot. Then another. She slowly looked up. At the top of the wardrobe, wedged on the shelf above the dresses, was the cloth rabbit. Una's cloth rabbit. Its belly had been slit open. Cotton stuffing bulged from the wound. Inside the stuffing, pushed deep into the toy, were teeth. Human teeth. Small, yellowed, some with roots still attached, packed into the rabbit's body like seeds inside fruit. Una saw it and began screaming. Mina grabbed the rabbit and threw it across the room. Teeth scattered over the floor, clicking and bouncing, rolling under the bed, under the vanity, into corners. Hyachin burst in, followed by their father. Una was shrieking, clawing at her blankets. Mina pointed at the floor. Look at what she did. But the teeth were gone. So was the rabbit. The wardrobe held only Mina's old clothes. Hyachin stood in the doorway, with one hand over her heart. Dr. Han looked at the floor, then at Mina. His face was not angry. That would have been easier. He looked afraid. "Mina," he said gently, "where are your pills?" She stared at him. Hyachin took a slow step into the room. "Yes," she said, "where are they?" "I am not crazy." "No one said that," her father whispered. "I know what I saw." Una sobbed. "I saw it too." Hyachin turned to her. "Did you?" Una stopped crying. There was something in Hyachin's voice, a hook hidden in softness. "Tell your father exactly what you saw," Hyachin said. "Not what Mina told you. What you saw." Una's mouth opened. No sound came out. Mina grabbed her hand. "Tell him." Una looked from Mina to their father, then to Hyachin. Her face emptied. "I do not know," she whispered. Mina felt the words like a knife. That night, Mina did not sleep. She sat on the floor with her back against the bed and watched the door. Una slept behind her, exhausted from crying. The moonlight through the window painted the room silver. The house was silent, so silent that Mina could hear the faint movement of water in the pipes. At 3:17, the hallway floor creaked. Mina looked at the clock on the vanity. 3:17, the time of their mother's death. Her body knew it before her mind did. The same cold ran down her spine. The same heaviness filled the room. The same sense that the air itself had turned and was watching her. The doorknob turned. Slowly, Mina stood. The knob stopped. A voice outside whispered her name. Not Hyojin, not Yuna, her mother, Mina. Mina's throat closed. Again softer. Mina opened the door. Yuna stirred, but did not wake. Mina took one step toward the door. The voice sobbed, "My good girl, please. It is so cold." Mina pressed both hands over her mouth. She wanted to open it. Every part of her body ached to open it, to see her mother, to fall into her arms, to ask forgiveness for every cruel thought she had ever had, for feeling relieved when the illness ended, for having the sound of coughing through the wall, for wishing once, only once, that her mother would die before Yuna broke completely. The voice changed. It became wet. "Mina." Something scratched the door. Not fingernails. Something softer. Meat against wood. "Mina, she put me in the lake." Mina backed away. The scratching grew frantic. "She put stones in my mouth." The door shook. "Open the door." Yuna woke and sat up. Her eyes were open, but her voice was not her own. "Do not let her in," she said. Mina turned. Yuna sat rigid in bed. Her head was tilted at an unnatural angle, chin nearly touching her shoulder. Her eyes shone black in the moonlight. "What?" Yuna smiled. Not Yuna's smile. A thin, trembling smile stretched too wide across her face. "She is not mother," Yuna said. The door burst open. The hallway beyond was empty. The next morning, Hyojin announced that there would be guests for dinner. "Your aunt and uncle," she said. "Your father thinks familiar faces will help." Mina did not look at her. She looked at Yuna, who sat quiet and pale at the table, spooning rice into her mouth, though her eyes remained unfocused. Their aunt and uncle arrived before sunset. Aunt Sora was their mother's older sister, a broad woman with dyed brown hair and nervous hands. Uncle Jisoo was thin, polite, and smelled of tobacco. They brought fruit wrapped in pink paper. At dinner, the air thickened. Hyojin had arranged candles along the table. Their flames trembled, though no window was open. The mirrors reflected the guests again and again. Rows of pale faces sitting in rows of candlelight. Aunt Sora tried to speak cheerfully. "Mina, you look so grown." "Yuna, darling, I brought the sweet rice cakes you like." Yuna looked at her aunt. Then she looked under the table. Mina followed her gaze. At first, she saw only shoes. Her father's black shoes. Hyojin's pale slippers. Aunt Sora's sensible heels. Uncle Jisoo's brown loafers. Then at the far end, beneath their mother's empty chair, she saw 2 bare feet. Gray, wet, the toes were swollen and split. The nails had gone black. Water pooled beneath them on the floor. Mina gripped the edge of the table. The feet shifted. A woman crouched beneath the table, hidden by the white cloth. Long black hair lay across the floor in strings. One hand gripped the chair leg. The fingers were broken, bent in several directions, the skin loose and wrinkled from water. Slowly, the woman turned her head toward Mina. Aunt Sora gasped. Her chopsticks fell. She saw it too. The thing under the table opened its mouth. Like water poured out, thick and black, carrying strands of weed and little white things that wriggled like maggots. Aunt Sora began choking. She clutched her throat, face turning red. Uncle Jisoo jumped up, knocking over his chair. Their father rushed to help her. Hyejin remained seated, smiling faintly at her wine glass. Aunt Sora convulsed. Her eyes bulged. Her mouth opened wide, wider than seemed possible, and from between her lips slid a wet black ribbon. No, not a ribbon. Hair. A thick rope of hair emerged from Aunt Sora's throat, slick with saliva. Uncle Jisoo screamed. Dr. Han tried to pull it free, but more came, yard after yard, spilling over Aunt Sora's chin and onto her dress. She gagged around it, hands clawing the air. Mina stood frozen. Yuna whispered, "Mother." Hyejin slammed her hand on the table. Enough. The candles went out. Darkness swallowed the room. When the lights came back on, Aunt Sora lay on the floor sobbing, but there was no hair, no water, no woman under the table. The white cloth was clean. The floor was dry. Uncle Jisoo helped his wife stand. He would not meet anyone's eyes. "We should go," he said. Hyejin followed them to the door, apologizing, explaining nerves, stress, grief, illness. At the threshold, Aunt Sora grabbed Mina's wrist. Her fingers were icy. "Your mother came to me before she died," she whispered. "She said someone in this house was stealing her breath." Mina leaned closer. "What do you mean?" Aunt Sora looked over Mina's shoulder toward Hyejin. "She said the nurse wore her perfume while she slept. Then Uncle Jisoo pulled her away. After they left, Mina searched her mother's bedroom. Hyejin had moved into it, of course. The bed was made with new white sheets. Her father's side looked untouched. Hyejin's perfume bottles stood on the vanity beside their mother's silver brush. The wardrobe held Hyejin's dresses, arranged by color, pale to dark. In the drawer where their mother had kept letters, Mina found only folded scarves. Then she noticed the vent near the floor. One screw was loose. Mina knelt and pulled the vent cover free. Inside was a narrow space, thick with dust. Something had been pushed deep into the wall. She reached in, coughing as dust coated her fingers, and drew out a tin box wrapped in a yellowing pillowcase. Her mother's sewing box. Mina opened it. Inside were photographs. At first, ordinary ones. Mina and Yuna as children. Their mother on the dock. Their father smiling beside the plum tree in a way Mina had not seen for years. Then others. Photographs of their mother asleep in bed, taken from the doorway. Her face thin, mouth open. Her nightgown shifted to reveal bruises on her arms. Photographs of pill bottles. Photographs of Hyejin standing beside their father in the hospital corridor long before the funeral. His hand on her wrist. Their heads close together. At the bottom was a page torn from their mother's diary. The handwriting was shaky. She comes at night when he is gone. She says I imagine things. She moves my medicine. She wears my necklace while she thinks I sleep. Yesterday I woke, and she was standing over Yuna. Yuna was crying, but made no sound. I am afraid she will hurt my girls. The rest of the page was stained dark brown. Mina folded it into her pocket. Behind her, a floorboard creaked. Hyejin stood in the bedroom doorway. For once, she was not smiling. That box is mine, Hyejin said. Mina stood. No. Hyejin entered the room and closed the door behind her. You girls think grief makes you holy. It does not. It makes you selfish. It makes you cruel. Your mother was cruel by the end. She was sick. She was weak. Mina slapped her. The sound startled them both. Hyejin's head turned with the blow. For several seconds, she remained still, one cheek reddening. Then she laughed. It began small, a breath through her nose. Then it widened. She covered her mouth with 2 fingers, eyes bright. You have her temper, Hyejin said. She slapped me once too, near the end. She thought I was trying to poison her. Were you? Hyejin stepped closer. Do you want the truth? Mina did not move. The truth is that she was dying long before I came here. The truth is that your father wanted quiet. The truth is that Yuna was always fragile, and you were always angry, and your mother was tired of all of you. Mina felt the room tilt. Hyejin leaned in. And the worst truth is that on the night she died, someone heard her calling. Mina could not breathe. Hyejin whispered. Someone stood outside her door and did not go in. Mina struck her again. This time Hyejin seized Mina's wrist. Her fingers dug deep, too deep. Pain shot up Mina's arm. Hyejin's face changed. The skin around her eyes seemed to loosen. Her lips peeled back from her teeth. For an instant Mina saw the woman not as a woman, but as something wearing Hyejin's bones badly. Something cramped inside flesh, pushing outward. Hyejin hissed, Ask your sister what she remembers. Then the bedroom door opened. Their father stood there. Hyejin released Mina and stepped back, tears appearing instantly in her eyes. She attacked me, Hyejin said. Mina laughed once, sharp and humorless. Dr. Han looked at the red mark on Hyejin's cheek, then at Mina. Go to your room. Father, listen to me. Go. I found Mother's diary. His face drained of color. Hyejin's eyes flicked to him. What diary? She asked. Mina pulled the page from her pocket. It was blank. No handwriting. No stain. Only old paper. Hyejin smiled behind their father's shoulder. That night, Yuna disappeared. Mina woke to find the bed empty and the bedroom door open. The hall outside was dark. The grandfather clock downstairs ticked loudly enough that each beat seemed to strike the bones in Mina's chest. Yuna. No answer. Mina searched the bathroom first, then Yuna's old room. The bed there had been made too neatly, the pillows stacked, the curtains tied back. The air smelled stale, untouched. On the wall above the bed hung a painting their mother had made when Una was little. Two girls standing beside the lake, their hands joined. Mina had always loved it. Now one of the painted girls had no face. The paint where the face had been was scraped away, leaving raw canvas. Mina backed from the room. At the end of the hall, the attic door hung open. A string dangled from the ceiling. Mina remembered the dragging sounds overhead, the bare footsteps, the dust falling onto their quilt. She climbed. The attic smelled of mildew and dead insects. Her flashlight beam shook across trunks, rolled carpets, broken chairs, boxes of winter clothes. The roof beams arched above like ribs. Rain began outside, soft at first, then harder, ticking against the tiles. Una, a whisper answered. Mina. She found Una near the far wall, kneeling before an old wardrobe covered by a sheet. Her nightgown was soaked at the hem. Mud streaked her bare feet. What are you doing? Una did not turn. She is inside, she said. Mina approached. The sheet over the wardrobe moved, though there was no wind. Who? Mother. Mina grabbed Una's shoulder. Come downstairs. Una looked up. Her eyes were full of tears. She told me I left her. Mina's hand went cold. What? The night she died. I heard her. I heard her calling, but Hyojin was in the hall. She told me Mother was confused. She told me not to upset Father. She held my shoulders and smiled and said, little birds must stay in bed. Una began to shake. I stayed in bed. Mina knelt beside her. You were a child. I heard Mother crying. The wardrobe creaked. Both sisters froze. From inside came a wet breath. Then a woman's voice, muffled by wood. Una. Una crawled toward it. Mina pulled her back. The wardrobe doors bulged outward. Something struck them from inside. Once, twice, a crack split the wood. Una screamed. Mina dragged her away as the doors burst open. A body fell out. It landed face down among the dust and mouse droppings with a heavy, boneless slap. Long black hair covered the head. A pale nightgown clung to the thin frame. The feet were broken inward, ankles purple and swollen. The fingers were crushed flat, nails torn away. The body twitched. Una made a sound, like a dying animal. The corpse lifted its head. It had their mother's face, but bloated from lake water. Skin stretched shiny over cheekbones, lips blue, eyes milky and enormous. Something moved beneath the skin of her throat, crawling upward. Her mouth opened, and a black beetle emerged, followed by another, and another, spilling down her chin. Mina, the corpse said. Mina could not move. The corpse began dragging itself toward them. Its legs did not work. Its knees bent backward. One hip snapped loudly as it crawled, and still it came, pulling itself by broken hands, leaving a trail of black water and beetles across the attic floor. "Mina," it said again, and the voice was full of grief. "Why did you let her wear my face?" The flashlight went out. In darkness, Una screamed. Mina swung blindly, striking something soft and wet. Fingers brushed her ankle. She kicked and felt bones crumble beneath her foot. The attic filled with whispering, hundreds of voices speaking over one another. "Little birds, stay in bed. Do not upset father. She is confused. She is dying. She is already dead." Then a new voice rose above them. "Hyajin, girls." A light appeared at the attic stairs. Hyajin stood below in a white robe, holding a lamp. "What are you doing up there?" The attic was empty. No corpse, no water, no beetles, only Mina and Una clinging to each other beside the old wardrobe. But on Mina's ankle, where fingers had touched her, were 5 black bruises. The next day, their father called the clinic. Mina heard him from the hallway. "Yes," he said into the phone. "Both of them. No, I understand. The older one is worse than before. The younger follows her lead." Mina pressed her forehead against the wall. Hyajin's voice murmured in the background. Their father said, "Tomorrow morning." Mina ran to Una. "We have to leave tonight." Una sat at the vanity, brushing her hair. She had brushed it so much that strands lay across her lap and shoulders. Her face was calm in a way Mina did not like. "Where would we go?" "Aunt Sora. She will not help. We will make her." Una looked at Mina through the mirror. "Do you remember the red room?" Mina frowned. "What red room?" Una set down the brush. "The room under the stairs." "There is no room under the stairs." Una smiled faintly. "That is what I thought." She stood and led Mina downstairs. Hyajin was in the kitchen humming while chopping meat. The knife rose and fell. Chop, chop, chop. The smell of raw beef filled the corridor, thick and metallic. Una guided Mina past the dining room and toward the cupboard beneath the main staircase. It had always held cleaning supplies, umbrellas, and old boots. Una opened it. Inside was darkness. At the back, behind a mop and stacked boxes, the wall had a narrow seam. Una pressed her fingers into it. A small door opened inward. Cold air breathed out. Mina stared. "How did you know?" "Mother showed me." They crawled through. The space beyond was too large to exist under the stairs. Mina knew the layout of the house. There should have been stone foundation, not a narrow descending passage lined with damp boards. The air smelled rotten, like wet cloth left in a sealed trunk. At the bottom was a red room, not painted red, stained red. The walls were covered in old wallpaper, but beneath it, dark patches spread like bruises. The floorboards were scratched. A rusted bed frame stood in the center. On it lay leather straps, cracked with age. A basin sat in the corner, filled with cloudy water. Above the basin hung dozens of photographs from strings. Mina stepped closer. The photographs showed their house over many years, their mother as a young bride, their father standing stiffly beside her, Hyojin younger, wearing a nurse uniform, appearing first at the edge of a hospital photograph, then in the garden, then inside the house. In one photograph, Hyojin stood behind their mother on the dock, one hand hovering near her back. In another, Hyojin leaned over Yuna's sleeping face. In another, Hyojin sat at the dining table wearing their mother's necklace, while their mother stood in the background, blurred and ghost-like. Yuna touched one photograph. It showed the night of their mother's death. The bedroom door was open. Their mother lay half fallen from the bed, one arm reaching toward the hall. Hyojin stood over her. Their father was absent. At the edge of the frame, in the hallway, stood Yuna in her nightgown. Mina felt sick. "Who took these?" A voice answered from the corner. "I did." The sisters turned. Their mother sat in the shadow beside the basin, not bloated now, not monstrous. She looked as she had before the illness became cruel, thin but beautiful, with her black hair pinned loosely and her plum blossom necklace at her throat. Her hands rested in her lap. Yuna began to cry. Mina could not speak. Their mother looked at them with unbearable tenderness. "My little birds," she said. Yuna took one step forward. Mina grabbed her. The mother in the chair tilted her head. "Still protecting her," she said to Mina. "Always the brave one." Mina forced the words out. "What are you?" Their mother smiled. "Memory." The room pulsed. The red stains on the wall darkened. "Your mother is dead," the figure said. "But a house keeps what people refuse to bury." The basin water trembled. Images formed on its surface. Their mother in bed, sweating, confused, reaching for medicine that was not on the table. Hyojin pouring pills into the sink. Their father arguing with Hyojin in whispers, saying this must stop. Hyojin kissing him. Their mother watching from the doorway. Yuna hiding beneath a table, hands over her ears. Mina outside in the rain, refusing to come in because she could no longer stand the smell of sickness. The image changed. The final night, their mother clawed at her throat. Hyojin stood beside the bed. She held a pillow. Their mother tried to scream. Hyojin pressed the pillow down. The body thrashed. The feet kicked so hard against the bed frame that bones broke. The fingers scraped the wooden headboard until nails tore loose. In the hallway, Yuna watched. Behind Yuna, Mina appeared at the top of the stairs. Mina's heart stopped. "I was not there." The image sharpened. Mina saw herself. 17, rain-soaked, furious, frozen. She had come home late after walking by the lake for hours. She had heard sounds from her mother's room. She had seen Hyojin in the doorway afterward, holding the pillow against her chest. She had seen Yuna standing like a ghost. Then Hyojin had turned. Mina remembered nothing after that. The figure of their mother stood. "You both saw," she said. That is why she sent you away. That is why your father agreed. He wanted silence more than truth. Una sank to the floor. Mina shook her head, but the memory had opened now, and it came flooding back. The night, the pillow, their mother's hand falling from the bed, Hyojin whispering, "If you tell, everyone will know you did nothing." Mina screaming, their father arriving too late, his face as he looked at Hyojin, then at the dead woman, then at his daughters. Not horror, calculation. The red room door above them slammed shut. Footsteps crossed overhead. Hyojin's voice called sweetly, "Girls." The mother figure looked toward the ceiling. "She knows you remember." The photographs began to sway, though there was no wind. Their mother's face changed. The tenderness rotted. Her skin sagged. Her eyes turned cloudy. The plum blossom pendant sank into the flesh of her throat as if swallowed by decay. "Run," she said. The basin overturned. Black water rushed across the floor, carrying hair, beetles, and white finger bones. The walls split open. From behind the wallpaper came hands, dozens of pale hands, pushing through, tearing the paper, reaching for the sisters. Some were small like children's hands. Some were swollen and gray. Some had wedding rings embedded deep in bloated flesh. Mina pulled Una toward the passage. The hands grabbed at their ankles, their hair, their nightgowns. Una screamed as one hand clamped around her wrist, its nails sliding beneath her skin. Mina seized an old iron rod from beside the bed frame and smashed it down. The fingers burst apart like rotten fruit, spraying black fluid over the floor. They climbed. Above them, Hyojin opened the cupboard door. She stood framed in warm hallway light, smiling down into the passage. "There you are," she said. Behind her stood their father. His face was ruined by fear. "Hyojin," he whispered, "let them out." She did not look at him. Mina pushed Una upward. Hyojin reached down and grabbed Una's hair. Una shrieked. Mina swung the iron rod. It struck Hyojin's wrist with a crack. Hyojin screamed and stumbled back. Una scrambled into the cupboard, then into the hall. Mina followed, slipping on black water that had somehow flooded up the passage behind her. Their father reached for them. Hyojin turned on him. "You promised," she said. Dr. Han backed away. "I was afraid." "You were grateful." The house groaned. Every mirror in the hall darkened at once. In each reflection stood their mother. Not one mother, many. Young mother, sick mother, dead mother, drowned mother, mother with broken feet, mother with no eyes, mother with the pillow pressed forever against her face. Each reflection raised one hand and pointed at Hyojin. Hyojin looked around. For the first time, she seemed afraid. Mina grabbed Una and ran toward the front door. It would not open. The lock twisted under her hands. But the door held as if something enormous leaned against it from outside. The grandfather clock struck midnight, though it was only evening. One chime, two, three. With every chime, a room in the house opened. The dining room doors swung wide. The chairs scraped back by themselves. Plates shattered. Soup bowls filled with black water. The kitchen door slammed open. Meat slid from the counter and slapped wetly onto the floor. The chopped pieces twitched, then crawled together, forming the shape of a little bird with no feathers. Upstairs, wardrobe doors banged. Windows cracked. The attic dragged something heavy across the ceiling. Hyejin stood in the middle of the hall, clutching her broken wrist. "This is my house," she screamed. The mirrors answered with laughter. Their father moved toward the sisters. "Mina," he said, "Yuna, listen to me. I was wrong. I was so wrong." Mina stared at him. He looked smaller than she had ever seen him. "You knew," she said. Tears ran down his face. "I did not see until it was done. But you knew after." He nodded. Yuna whispered, "You sent us away. I thought I was protecting you." "From what?" He looked at Hyejin. "From what I had allowed." Hyejin laughed. "Oh, noble now. After all these months. After my hands cleaned your wife and dressed your wife and closed your wife's mouth while you sat downstairs drinking." The mirrors cracked. A long split ran through the oval mirror beside the stairs. From the crack seeped black water, then hair, then fingers. Their mother began pulling herself out of the mirror, not a ghost floating delicately through glass. She emerged as if being born through a wound. Her wet hair came first, then one gray hand, then her face pressed sideways through the split, skin peeling where the glass cut her. Her mouth stretched open silently. Her shoulders forced through with a wet, snapping sound. Hyejin screamed. The mother thing fell onto the floor. More reflections split. More mothers crawled out. One from the mirror above the sideboard, dragging broken legs. One from the narrow hall mirror, her face covered by the pillow. One from the round mirrors, each too small, so only hands came through. Dozens of hands reaching and grasping. Hyejin backed toward the dining room. The mothers followed. Their wet bodies slapped against the floor. Their broken feet twisted. Their mouths opened and closed, releasing black lake water that spread across the hall. Mina grabbed Yuna and pulled her toward the back door. This time it opened. Cold rain struck their faces. They ran into the garden. Behind them, their father shouted. Mina turned. He stood in the doorway, reaching for them. Hyejin appeared behind him and drove a kitchen knife into his side. He gasped. Yuna screamed, "Father." Hyejin pulled the knife free and stabbed again. Dr. Han fell to his knees. Mina started back, but Yuna held her. The mothers reached the doorway. Hyejin looked over her shoulder. Their father crawled toward the rain, one hand stretched out. The mothers passed him. They did not touch him. Not yet. They took Hyejin. Hands seized her arms, her dress, her hair. She fought with insane strength, slashing with the knife, cutting gray flesh that opened without blood. A mother with no eyes wrapped both hands around Hyojin's throat. Another forced fingers into Hyojin's mouth. Another crawled up her back and pressed its broken lips to her ear. Hyojin's scream changed. It became muffled. A wet white pillow appeared in the hands of the mother from the mirror. Hyojin shook her head violently. "No," she sobbed. "No, please." The pillow pressed over her face. The dead women dragged her backward into the hall. Her feet kicked against the threshold. Once, twice, the bones snapped. Mina covered Yuna's eyes, but Yuna pulled her hand away. They watched Hyojin vanish into the house. The door slammed shut. The screaming continued inside. It moved from room to room, upstairs, downstairs, into the walls, into the attic, into the red room beneath the stairs. Then silence. Rain fell. The lake lay black beyond the garden. Their father crawled from the doorway and collapsed on the steps. Blood spread beneath him, diluted pink by the rain. Mina and Yuna approached slowly. He looked up at them. "I am sorry," he whispered. Mina knelt. She wanted to hate him cleanly. She wanted hatred to be simple. But his blood was on the stone, and his face was gray. And once he had carried her on his shoulders through this garden while their mother laughed from the porch. Yuna stood behind Mina, shaking. Their father reached into his shirt and pulled out the silver plum blossom necklace. It was slick with blood. "I took it from her," he said. "Tonight, I should have done it sooner." He pressed it into Mina's hand. Then he looked past them toward the lake. "She is waiting," he whispered. "Who?" He smiled, and it broke Mina's heart because it was almost peaceful. "Your mother." He died before dawn. The police found no trace of Hyojin. They found blood in the hall, yes. Broken mirrors, water damage, the hidden room under the stairs, photographs, the diary pages Hyojin had stolen, pill bottles hidden in the walls, scratches on the headboard in the master bedroom, deep enough to match fingernails torn to the root. But no Hyojin, no body, no footprints leaving the house, no explanation for the dead birds discovered buried beneath the plum tree, each with its head turned backward. The official report called Dr. Han's death a homicide by an unknown assailant. Their mother's death was reopened, then quietly reclassified. Mina and Yuna were questioned for 3 days. Aunt Sora came for them and refused to let them be separated. The house was locked, then sold, then abandoned when the first buyers left after 11 nights, claiming that a woman in a blue dress stood at the foot of their bed, whispering through a pillow held over her own face. Years passed. Mina became a painter like her mother. She painted houses without doors, lakes without reflections, sisters standing hand in hand beneath trees full of black birds. Critics called her work disturbing. They said grief lived in every brushstroke. They did not know how literal that was. Yuna never fully recovered, but but she learned to live with her fear. She kept her hair short. She never slept near wardrobes. She married a kind man who understood that some nights she needed every light in the house turned on. She had a daughter and named her after their mother. The sisters spoke often, but never about the red room, never about the mirror, never about hygiene, until the letter arrived. It came on a rainy morning, 20 years after they left the house. Mina was in her studio, washing brushes, when the envelope slid through the mail slot. It was thick cream paper, no return address, her name written in a hand she recognized at once. Hyacin's hand. Mina stood motionless for a long time. Rain tapped against the windows. In the corner of the studio, beneath a sheet, stood an old oval mirror Mina had bought at an antique market and never hung. She did not know why she had purchased it. Something about its shape had made her stomach turn, and still she had carried it home. The envelope smelled faintly of powdery perfume. Mina called Yuna before opening it. Her sister arrived within the hour, pale and breathless, her daughter waiting in the car with Yuna's husband. Mina wanted to tell her to leave, to protect her, but Yuna only held out her hand. Together, she said. Mina opened the letter. Inside was a photograph. The old house, but not abandoned. The windows glowed with warm light. The garden was trimmed. Curtains hung clean and white. On the porch stood a woman in a pale blue dress. Her face was blurred. On the back of the photograph, written in Hyacin's careful script, were 6 words. Little birds should visit their nest. Yuna began crying without sound. Mina turned the photograph over again. In an upstairs window stood their mother. Not bloated, not broken, just watching. And beside her, barely visible in the reflection of the glass, stood a child Mina did not know. A little girl with wet black hair and one hand pressed against the window. Yuna whispered, "My daughter." Mina looked at her. "What?" Yuna's phone rang. Both sisters jumped. Yuna answered with shaking hands. Her husband's voice came through, panicked and distant. "She is gone," he said. I looked away for a second. The car door opened. "Yuna, she is gone." Mina dropped the photograph. The oval mirror in the corner cracked beneath its sheet. A thin line, sharp as a smile. From under the fabric came a whisper. Not their mother, not Hyacin. A child. Mother. Yuna screamed and ran to the mirror. Mina grabbed her from behind as the sheet slid down by itself. In the glass was not the studio. It reflected the old house, the hallway, the mirrors, the red room door under the stairs hanging open. At the far end stood Yuna's daughter, barefoot, holding a cloth rabbit with one missing button eye. Behind her, a woman in a pale blue dress bent down and placed both hands on the child's shoulders. Hyacin's blurred face lifted toward the sisters. Even through the glass, they could see her smile. Mina seized a hammer from her work table and struck the mirror. The first blow cracked Hyojin's face. The second split the hallway. The third shattered the child into silver fragments. Yuna collapsed, screaming her daughter's name. Glass rained across the studio floor. For one perfect second, there was silence. Then from inside every shard, Hyojin laughed. The sound was small at first, multiplied by hundreds of broken reflections. Then louder, layered, surrounding them. Coming from the wet floor, the windows, the metal sink, the dark pupils of Yuna's eyes. Mina looked down. In one triangular shard near her foot, she saw the old house again. The child was still there. So was Hyojin. And behind them, farther back in the dark, stood all the mothers the house had kept. Their own mother, Aunt Sarah, though she was still alive. Women Mina did not recognize. Girls with like weed in their hair. Nurses with broken hands. Brides with pillows sewn to their faces. They were not protecting the child. They were waiting for her. Yuna reached for the shard. Mina stopped her. No, she is my baby. It wants you too. Yuna looked at Mina with eyes that had never stopped being 16. Then I will go. Before Mina could move, Yuna picked up the shard and pressed it to her chest. The glass sank into her as if her body were water. Yuna gasped. Her eyes went black. Behind her, the broken mirror pieces rose from the floor. They hung in the air like a swarm of silver insects. Each piece reflected a different part of the house. The porch, the attic, the dining table, the red room, the lake, the plum tree, the master bedroom where their mother had died. Yuna whispered, Mina. Her voice was already far away. Mina grabbed her sister's face. Stay with me. Yuna smiled. You always protected me. The mirror shards turned inward. They sliced through the air around Yuna, not cutting her skin, but cutting her reflection away. Mina watched in horror as Yuna's image peeled from her body. A thin, translucent version of her sister being drawn into the shards. Yuna's real body trembled in Mina's hands, growing cold. No, Mina sobbed. No, no, no. Yuna's reflection looked back from the largest shard. She was standing in the hallway of the old house now. Her daughter ran into her arms. For a moment, Yuna looked happy. Then Hyojin appeared behind them. The shard went black. Yuna's body fell. Mina held her sister on the studio floor while the rain hammered the windows. She screamed until her throat tore. She called the police, an ambulance, anyone. But when they came, Yuna was alive and breathing, eyes open, body uninjured. Only she did not speak. Not that day, not the next, not for a year. And her daughter was never found. Mina moved into Yuna's house to care for her. Every night, she locked every mirror in a closet. She covered every window after dark. She removed spoons, polished metal, framed photographs, anything that could reflect a face. Still, reflections found them. And tea, in rain puddles, in the black screen of a sleeping television. Sometimes Mina saw Yuna's daughter standing behind her, wet hair covering her eyes. Sometimes she saw Hyojin smile. Sometimes she saw their mother, weeping, holding a pillow in her arms like a dead infant. And sometimes, very late, when the house was quiet and Yuna slept with her eyes open, Mina heard footsteps above the ceiling, bare feet, moving in circles. One night, Yuna finally spoke. Mina was sitting beside her bed, half asleep, when her sister turned her head and whispered, "She has rooms for all of us." Mina leaned forward. "Who?" Yuna's cracked lips parted. "The house." Mina felt the old cold return. Yuna stared at the ceiling. "It does not haunt people," she whispered. "It collects them." Outside, rain began to fall. Yuna raised one trembling hand and pointed toward the wardrobe, though Mina had emptied it long ago. "She is in there." Mina did not ask who. The wardrobe doors opened by themselves. Inside was the red room. The smell rolled out first, damp wood, old blood, like water, perfume. Then came the sound of a child humming. Yuna began crying. Mina stood, though every instinct begged her to run. At the back of the wardrobe, beneath a swinging bare bulb, sat Yuna's daughter on the rusted bed frame. She looked exactly as she had on the day she vanished, except her feet were wet and her lips were blue. Beside her sat Hyojin. The woman had not aged. Her wrist bent at an impossible angle where Mina had struck it 20 years before. Her neck showed dark finger marks. Her mouth was stretched, bruised at the edges, as if a pillow had been pressed there for decades. She smiled. "Mina," she said, "you took so long." Yuna tried to rise. Mina held her down. Hyojin stroked the child's hair. "She is lonely. Children need family." Mina's hands shook. "You cannot have her." Hyojin looked amused. "I already do." From behind Hyojin, their mother emerged from shadow. Mina's breath caught. Her mother looked sad, not monstrous, not vengeful, only sad and terribly tired. "I tried to keep them from her," her mother said. Mina stepped closer to the wardrobe. "Then help us." Her mother looked at Yuna. "The living cannot take back what the house has eaten, but they can choose who feeds it next." Hyojin's smile faded. The red room darkened behind her. Mina understood. She understood with a calm so absolute it felt like madness. She turned to Yuna, who stared at her with panic blooming through her silence. "No," Yuna whispered. Mina kissed her sister's forehead. "Sisters protect each other." "Mina, no." Mina stepped into the wardrobe. The floor beneath her bare feet became damp boards. The bedroom vanished. The red room opened around her, larger than before, walls stretching into darkness. Photographs swung from strings overhead. Every photograph showed a moment of cowardice, cruelty, silence. 1,000 families, 1,000 betrayals, 1,000 rooms where someone had heard crying and chosen not to open the door. Hyojin stood and backed away. "You cannot replace me," she said. Mina picked up the old pillow from the bed. It was heavy with lake water. Her mother stepped aside. The dead women gathered in the shadows. Yuna's daughter watched with wide eyes. Mina walked toward Hyojin. Hyojin's face twisted. Beauty fell from it like a mask. Her cheeks collapsed. Her jaw stretched. Her eyes sank into black pits. Beneath the blue dress, her body was swollen with trapped water, stitched together by old reflections. Glass shards glittered under her skin. "You are just a girl," Hyojin hissed. Mina pressed the pillow against Hyojin's face. The room screamed. Hyojin clawed at her. Nails tore Mina's arms. Teeth bit into the pillow from the other side. The dead women closed around them. Hands gripped Hyojin's wrists, shoulders, hair. Mina held on as Hyojin bucked and thrashed. The floor became the lake. Black water rose to Mina's knees, then her waist. Beetles crawled over her throat. Hair wrapped around her fingers. Hyojin's screams turned wet. Mina leaned close. "For my mother," she whispered. "For my sister. For every little bird you taught to stay quiet." Hyojin went still. The red room exhaled. The water fell away. The pillow dropped from Mina's hands. Where Hyojin had stood, there was only a pale blue dress on the floor, empty and soaked. Yuna's daughter stood from the bed. "Mina," she said. Mina turned. The child ran to her. Mina held her tightly and felt warmth return to the little body, felt breath, real breath, against her neck. Their mother smiled. "Take her," she said. "What about you?" Her mother looked around the room. "I have been here too long." The photographs began to burn, one by one, curling into black ash without flame. The walls trembled. The red stains dried and flaked away. In the distance, the old house groaned like a dying animal. Mina carried the child toward the wardrobe door. Yuna waited on the other side, sobbing, reaching. Mina passed the girl into her arms. For 1 second, the sisters looked at each other across the threshold. Yuna understood before Mina spoke. "No," she said. Mina smiled through tears. "Close it." Yuna shook her head. "Close it, or it will take her again." Behind Mina, the red room began to rebuild itself. Boards slid into place. New photographs formed in the air. The house was hungry. It had lost Hyojin, but hunger did not end. It only searched for another keeper. Mina felt the room looking at her, choosing her. Yuna screamed as the wardrobe doors pulled shut. The last thing Mina saw was her sister holding her daughter, alive, both of them framed by warm bedroom light. Then darkness. Years later, Yuna would tell people that her sister died in a fire. It was easier than the truth. She moved far from the lake. She raised her daughter in a bright apartment with no wardrobes, no antique mirrors, no polished silver. She lived gently. She grew old. She never returned to the house. But the house did not remain empty. People still saw lights there on rainy nights. Travelers on the road by the lake claimed a woman stood in the upstairs window, her hair long and black, her face calm. Not Hyojin, not the mother, someone younger. A woman who watched the forest. A woman who waited beside a room under the stairs. Sometimes, foolish teenagers broke in, daring one another to climb to the attic or sit at the dining table after midnight. Most ran out frightened, but unharmed, telling stories of wet footprints, whispers in walls, and mirrors that reflected rooms not behind them. But cruel people did not leave so easily. A man who struck his wife vanished there. A nurse accused of stealing from dying patients vanished there. A mother who locked her child in a closet vanished there. Each time, neighbors heard screams from the house. Each time, the lake turned blacker. Each time, in an upstairs window, the watching woman was seen holding a white pillow. Thank you for listening to tonight's story. If it followed you into the dark, like the video, subscribe for more horror and leave a comment. Keep your lights closed, keep your mirrors covered, and until the next story, remember that the dead are not always the ones you should fear most. Sometimes the most terrifying thing in the house is the person smiling at the dinner table, wearing someone else's necklace. Good night.
Whispers of a love so true, painting dreams of me and you. And I'll hold you close in this moment so divine. Whispers of the night.